Good morning. This is video lecture on dynamic polymorphism. I am S. Manonmani, working as assistant professor in CSE department, RV College of Engineering, Bangalore. I am going to explain you dynamic polymorphism in C++. That is dynamic polymorphism concept in C++. First, we should know what is polymorphism. Polymorphism is nothing but ability for objects of different classes to respond differently to the same function call. That is called polymorphism. There are two types of polymorphism. One is static polymorphism, another one is dynamic polymorphism. The static polymorphism allows a function to carry more than one definition, and which one should be used is determined during the compile time. That is called static polymorphism. It is also called early binding. The next one is dynamic polymorphism. That is called late binding. So dynamic polymorphism allows a function to carry more than one definitions, and which one should be used is not determined during the compile time. That will be determined during the runtime. That is, proper definition is handed to the function during the runtime. That is called late binding. So in C++, we call such function as virtual function. So just use method show throughout the hierarchy. We are going to, what is the motivation of virtual function? So we are going to use a show method throughout the hierarchy. That is throughout the hierarchy. That is, here we are having a base class, one base class. In that base class, we have a function called show function. So then more than one derived class. In this example, we are having three derived class, that is derived class 1. It has a function called show function. Then derived class function, that is called second derived class. It has one more, the same function, show function. Then derived class 3 also have the same function. Like that, we can have subclasses with the same function name. So this is the hierarchy. In this hierarchy, I am going to use the show function in all classes. Now, so here I am going to explain the base class pointer to the derived class object. So C++ allows base class pointer to point to derived class object. Here a class name called base, that is the base class. It has a function called show function. It will display a string base. So we have one more class called derived class. Base class is, that is base class. It has a function, same function which the base class has, that is show function. One more derived class, that is derived 2. Base class is base. So here in main, in C++, it allows base class pointer points to derived class object. So we are creating object for derived class 1, derived class 2, then base class pointer. Here base class pointer is pointing to derived class object. In this first statement, in this ptr is equal to address of d1, that is pointing to derived class object. Then we are calling the derived class function with respect to base class pointer. Even though the derived class is pointing to base class object, but it will call only base class function, that is non-virtual function. So why we need virtual function? So with respect to base class, you can call derived class object. So in virtual, the same program, you have to add the keyword virtual in the base class function. Virtual void show. Now create object for derived class 1 and derived class 2, then base class pointer. Now derived class is pointing to base class pointer. So with respect to base class pointer, if you call derived class method, it will call derived class method. Now the output is derived 1 and derived 2. So what is the overhead of virtual function? So every class with a virtual function has a virtual table. So every function, virtual table has a pointer. So dynamic binding, it requires more storage and makes the program run slower. So whenever you need, depends on application, depends on usage, we can go for virtual function. In C++, by default, it is non-virtual function. So if you want to make that function as virtual, you should use the keyword virtual in the base class. So you can use the virtual function in the derived class also, that keyword, but that is not mandatory. You can make the base class function as virtual. Thank you.